Hey, welcome back, Mark's Garage channel. A couple things going on today I want to talk about before I get into doing some actual work on my truck. I was at a car show yesterday. It was a trunk or treat, and it was a huge hit because I brought the Jeep. I put Missy in the Jeep, and she passed out the candy, put the candy bowl on the hood. I'll try to post some still pictures I have from that. But I picked up a trophy, which I'm very happy about. I love to get acknowledged for, you know, the hard work I put into this truck. But my wife thought of something today, and I posted it on Facebook. She says, why not throw my truck out there as a prop for people to use for Christmas cards or hauling Christmas trees or something like that. So I put a little Facebook ad together, and I'm going to see how that goes. And in New England, it's fall foliage season. I want to show you this. Look at the color on this tree in my neighbor's yard. You drive New England highways now, and it's just awesome. I got to cut this short because my neighbor's coming around with the lawnmower again. He's going to ruin the sound. But I'm going to get into what I'm going to get into in a minute. What I'm doing today is I'm going to change the ammeter here. I've been struggling with, you know, generators, voltage regulators. This ammeter, look at that, negative discharge as soon as I turn the engine on. When I start the engine, it doesn't really go to the positive side like what you think it would do. And my friend Shane said it's possibly the ammeter itself. So I bit the bullet and I bought a new one. I'm going to swap it out and see what happens. Let me just start the truck and show you what happens. You see the needle doesn't even move. But knock wood, every time I go out and come back, I haven't, you know, the battery's still charged. So I don't know exactly what's happening, but I'm going to change this ammeter. It might make myself feel better. We'll see what happens. So I picked this up from Classic. I think it was around $70 delivered. Let's see what it looks like. Hopefully it looks just like the old one. It's in a box. There we go. Yeah. Perfect match. So it's a matter of taking that gauge cluster out, opening the gauge cluster up, and then swapping this out. So stand by for that. Now I've swapped gauges on this truck in a previous video, and it's no picnic. I think I changed the fuel gauge last time. But basically, I got to take this whole gauge cluster out from behind. I got to lay on my back, my head on the clutch pedal, and pull that gauge cluster out and take it apart. So stand by. Let me see if I remember how to do this. Oh boy. All right, so I got to disconnect a bunch of things. Get this to work, including the lights. Oh boy, I remember this now. What a pain in the neck. The tricky part is I'm going to start with disconnecting the big wire on the gauge itself. Man, I should probably take a picture of what's going on in here because it's been so long. So you can see I was able to get the gauge out. And there it is hanging. Now last time I did this, I had it set up on a stack of 2x4s that I used kind of as a work table. I think I could probably get away with doing this up in the air. But I had to drop the... there's the signal light indicator. There's the connector for the defrost, and there's the switch for the defrost fan, or the heater fan. So all that had to be dropped to get out of the way because the wires were tangling up, because those were all put in after the gauge went in. So I think if I reverse the order when I go back in, I should be okay. And I'm just going to show you this on the gauge. You see it's kind of like a crimp there. That's what holds the gauge together. So I think I'd pry that apart with a screwdriver, and that gauge will open right up. And I'm going to set up the camera and see if I can show you me doing that and see how it goes. Now, if I remember correctly, this thing comes apart a lot easier than it goes back together. And yeah, see, it opens up, I just pop it right open. Set this aside. And then, you're looking at the gauges, and I want to replace this one here. So there's nuts on the back. You just take those out, and it should drop. There's a jam nut for the wiring on each. There's 2 terminals, and then there's 2 for the mounting. So total of 6 nuts just for this gauge right here. And if I'm not mistaken, I've changed this gauge as well. I think I bought one on eBay and it didn't fit. Or no, it fit, but it didn't work. So I sent it back. Yeah, I've done this already. This ain't my first rodeo. The good thing is these nuts, I think I've lost one of them so far that's up in the dash here, and I'm looking around through this big hole in the dash for it and I'm not seeing it. And then that drops right out, and I don't know if you can see the back there, but there's like a paper backing, like an insulator, and some washers. I'm not going to touch that until I get the other one ready to go in. I was getting ready to push this back up into the dash, and I realized I got to put the glass cover back on. I forgot all about that part. And this is a big pain in the neck, if I remember right. And you see, it's oriented, gasoline, amperes, oil pressure, so you can't just slap it on in any way. It's got to go the right way, and I think there's a tab here and a tab here that line up. Yeah, that's what it is. And then once you get it in place, you kind of got to give it a crimp to get it to stay in place. That's what I remember. Well, I popped it in, and I heard it kind of click in place. What I did is I opened up the crimps I had done previously with the pliers, and now I think it's in the right place, and it seems to be holding by itself. And I'm going to try to slide it back up in there without it coming out of place. Just one more time. So I'm basically just working it up nice and easy. I'm reaching through the hole where the gauge goes with my fingers and pushing the wires out of the way and around the gauge itself. So now I'm really annoyed. As I'm putting this gauge together, I'm watching it, and I did something like this. You see the gauge just stays in place? That's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to just go back to neutral if this was a good gauge. So I'm thinking that gauge is defective. And by comparison, here's the old gauge. Even though it reads to the negative, see, it always goes back to the same place. So now I'm like, okay, now what? Do I just take this out, put it back in the box, and send it back and say, what the fuck are you sending me? This is garbage. This is absolute garbage, unacceptable. I'm, halfway into this thing, and this is what I'm dealing with. This is just stupid. I'm so annoyed. It's ridiculous. All that work. I haven't even finished the work. I still got to get it back together. And the gauge is no good. It's just junk. Unbelievable. I got to take that apart now. I ended up putting the old gauge right back in. And what I did is I wired it backwards. I figured maybe it works in the other direction better than in the normal direction. Maybe it works backwards better. So I wired it all up, turn the key on. You see it pops right to neutral. I pull the lights on, and now it goes positive, but that's really negative. It's got a draw on it. So I'll put it back to neutral, or shut the lights off. There's nothing on here. I got the key on. I'm going to start it up. Listen to this, or watch this. So I got it running now, but that gauge still doesn't move either direction. And if I put the lights on, you know, it's draining the battery. And here's something else that I found that was really, really annoying. I'm going to disconnect the battery, and I've done this before. I'll turn the idle up a little bit. Going down here to where the battery is. I reach down. As soon as I disconnect that battery, it shuts off, which tells me that it's not charging at all. So what the fuck? It's a new generator. It's a new voltage regulator. And it's not charging. Why? What am I doing wrong here? So I gotta put a meter on this, but I'm gonna wrap this up for now. I'll tell you, thanks for watching. If you put up with this long, me laying on my back, fighting with this thing. You didn't even see me putting it back together, which was even harder. And how I lose 3 nuts in this truck is ridiculous. I'm just really frustrated.